What's up, world? Let me tell you about this beard growth oil I got from 12 tribes on Earth. 8 ounces of oily goodness with a nozzle that prevents sprays and spills, and soft ingredients that make it perfect addition to anyone's morning routine. From coconut to castor, all these oils are hand chosen. After using this herbal blend, the biggest thing I noticed is how soft, how strong my hair was, and how good I feel. Pick up your bottle today and make your beard the star of the show.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all. Hope you're doing well. Oh, man. You know, probably a few months ago, I did the story on how the soldiers and sailors were starving. And, I was wondering all this time if they finally corrected that situation. Well, y'all, they never did. They never did. There's still not enough food. Food is being rationed, and it actually got worse. It's to the point now the sailors are jumping overboard. Some are trying to unalive themselves, and some are just trying to escape because the conditions are so bad on board. And my heart goes out to anybody that got family that's in that region because it is not good. And I'm going to get into some of the details and then we'll get into the videos. Let me share my screen. I this was so deep. I had to put a story on Medium, and I'm going to go over that. So the sailors and their families are given accounts of what it's like on the USS Abraham Lincoln. And wait until we get into the details of what's going on. Yeah, the sailors are jumping overboard, trying to get away. Some of them are just trying to unalive themselves. Number one, they were only supposed to be deployed out there for 6 months, and then they were supposed to leave. They have been out there for 9 months with very little to nothing on these ships. So let's go over the USS Abraham Lincoln. So this is my story that I put out on Medium. So for nearly 9 months, the USS Abraham Lincoln had been deployed at sea. So it's been more than 260 days, and the carrier is currently in its fifth consecutive month of conducting combat operations against Iran. Oh, man. Y'all, hold on. Somebody's at my damn door. Hold on. All right, y'all, I'm back. So, anyway, y'all, let's get back to the story. All right, so there are more than 5,000 sailors and Marines that are aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln right now. And they said the conditions are intolerable. The conditions are so bad. And the families are trying to get the word out. And this is based on phone calls and text messages they have been getting from, the sailors and soldiers that are on the ship. And one sailor said they have not eaten a decent meal in so long, they literally dropped 30 pounds. And I'm reading some of these soldiers have dropped as much as 50 pounds from not eating food. So this one mother spoke to her son, and he told her his meal was a half a cup of rice and two tortillas. That was it. And he has since dropped 30 pounds. Another sailor said they have dropped 17 pounds since being deployed. They're not eating. And they said the food portions have actually got smaller for these sailors that have been out there for 9 months with no means of compensating for the difference in food intake. Now, they're claiming the reason why they can't get food and supplies out to these sailors is because all of the military bases have been bombed. All of them have been bombed. So they don't have anywhere where they can bring in supplies because everything then got bombed up by Iran. All right. So let's go a little further into this because it gets far worse. So families are also reporting deficiencies in terms of hygiene. Sailors have been saying they wait in line. So apparently they got a store on board of the USS Abraham Lincoln. They said they will stand in line for more than an hour just to get in the store. And there are hardly any supplies in the store. The store is empty practically. There's hardly nothing in it. So, y'all, listen to this. They have been without soap, deodorant, shampoo, toothpaste are all out of stock. The toilets are broken. The showers are moldy. They have been reporting this, y'all, to Pete Hegseth for weeks. They have been reporting this to Pete Hegseth for weeks. And you know what Pete Hegseth said? It's fake news. Pete said it's fake news. All right. So if it's fake news, that's just another way of saying I ain't doing nothing about it. Fake news. These soldiers have not been able to do their laundry, y'all. Can you imagine being stuck on a ship in these conditions? Can you imagine the stench on that ship with no working toilets? The showers are moldy and there's nobody on there with deodorant. Well, that's what he said. He said it's fake news. Laundry facilities are inoperable. Y'all, they said they got cold water. It has not been any hot water on the ship for weeks. No hot water, cold water, no hot water. And they said the ship is actually in need of repair. There are holes on the flight deck and they don't have any supplies to even fix the USS Abraham Lincoln, and they said it needs repair. And I was looking at some of the things also said they said they're being on top of that, they're being treated bad. Can you oh man. Oh man. I mean, no, see, they're going overboard to try to get away from these conditions. And as you can see, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have no intentions on resupplying the ships and getting food out there. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care, y'all. This is so disgusting. And Donald Trump is worried about Iran having a nuke. No, honey, you're worried about the wrong thing. You need to be worried about taking care of these sailors and soldiers that are in the Middle East that are in need of a lot of help. Who cares about some nuke when your people are in these conditions? Yeah, it's disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting. And their reaction to it is historical. It is. It's historical. We've seen this behavior in y'all all throughout history. Uncaring, unconcerned, don't give a crap about what's happening to anybody else as long as it's not you. We've seen this behavior all throughout the entire time we've been around you. So now it's coming from Pete Hegseth. They said these soldiers and sailors are having mental breakdowns. That's why they're going overboard. And some people have been able to stop some of them from going overboard, and some of them went overboard altogether, but they are mentally breaking down from being in these conditions. And there seems to be no end in sight. I was looking at um, what they were saying. There's no end in sight. They've been out there for 9 months in bad conditions. And, could you at least bring these guys home and send somebody else, send another crew over? They won't even do that. They're making them stay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how would these troops be able to fight a ground war and they're starving and they haven't had a decent meal in months? They can't even take a shower. They can't even use a working toilet. Their hygiene is bad. Hygiene got to be bad with all of them on board at this point. How would they be able to fight a war? You couldn't do no ground combat with a bunch of starving soldiers. I mean, these people are stupid. And I'm going to say this again. Y'all can't run a dog pound. You never could run this country. You just know how to put on airs like you know how to run everything, but y'all don't know how to run shit. You really don't know how to run shit. I guess it must have been back in July. One brother put a video out and said, "You white people have already tried this thing, and y'all are failing. Y'all are failing miserably. Why not give us a chance to run it?" And he was like, "I bet you we won't fail." And you're right, we wouldn't. And they know it. That's why we've been sabotaged for all these years, because they know we wouldn't fail. We wouldn't. So, anyway, y'all, this is horrible. Let's get to the videos. I'm going to update my story. This is my story that I have on Medium. I'm going to update it and add today's video, this live stream in it. And, you can come out at your own leisure and read and watch this. But I think this is absolutely horrific what they're doing to these young people in the military. This is horrifying. And it's no excuse for it. America, you got money for everything else, but you don't have no money to take care of your military. What kind of inspiration is this for a young person to want to join the military? Because a lot of our young people can't even find work. And after looking at this, the military that's not an option. That's not an option, because they may cart your butt right on off to the Middle East and you'll be in the same conditions these sailors are in. I wouldn't join. You would have a lot of nerve wanting people to join your military, and this is how you're treating them. You would think it would be the exact opposite. You would be doing everything you can to make sure they're taken care of. And Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, They ain't doing a damn thing, y'all. In fact, 2 days ago, Donald Trump was back in the media again, talk about he built the military. Donald Trump was saying this. Oh, I built the military. Shit, man, forget about that. Feed the damn military. Take care of them. Get them some food, get them some supplies, get them some personal care items. Talking about he built a military. So the dude with bone spurs built the military. What a joke. All right, y'all. Let's get into the videos. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. He didn't join the military. And remember, he got 5 deferments. So he wouldn't have to go to Vietnam. 5 deferments. Come on. He built the military. Oh, man. You couldn't make it up if you wanted to. Thank you for the ones.
There are normal rotations. This is insane by any measure
Dangerous.
at all. And so think about it, Jonathan Lemire. We have this happening on the USS Lincoln. We have our sailors being treated like third-class citizens, treated like trash, actually. So we're not taking care of job one, which is, again, military readiness. And secondly, we're not even able to keep count of the munitions that we have. Pete Hegseth's DOD has run out of munitions to fight a hot war with Iran that Pete Hegseth told the president we should start.
Oh.
So he's sitting around talking about testosterone levels and doing all these stupid promo videos that are supposed to make him look tough, obsessing over somebody, whether somebody's black or white, taking down, like obsessing over taking down the pictures of the man who flew more combat missions than anybody else in the history of the United States military. But because Chappie James was black, Pete Hegseth had to take the picture down. These are the things he's obsessed on. We hear for years, oh my God, they're too concerned about DEI. It's getting in the way of the mission. No, it's just the opposite. It's Pete Hegseth who is so obsessed with the color of somebody's skin, or whether it's a man or a woman that's doing the mission, or whether the person is black or white that's doing extraordinary things to protect and defend the United States of America. He's so obsessed over the little things that readiness is falling by the wayside.
Every day, this gets worse. I mean, we've been talking about this since April, about the conditions aboard a Navy ship. But now, apparently, things have gotten absolutely worse, where we have sailors trying to overboard due to the extended deployment. Apparently, they've been there for 250 consecutive days. This is the longest that it's ever been without making it to land. And these sailors are venting to their family members about the condition on board. They don't have soap. They don't have toothpaste. I mean, it is absolutely terrible. There was a private town hall last week in San Diego with Navy leaders, including the actor director, and they say that the families were completely going in, saying that they're receiving text from their spouses and their loved ones saying that they don't want to wake up the next day because of the conditions on this ship. Mike Levine, who is a Democrat member of Congress, posted on X saying that there are moldy showers, broken toilets, the laundry has been down for weeks, there's long stretches with no hot water, a meal that came down was a half a cup of rice and 2 tortillas, again, no soap, no deodorant or toothpaste. This is absolutely deplorable. So the warship left San Diego on November 21st, and it was originally intended for the Pacific, but was redirected to the Middle East once, Frumpy Dump's self-inflicted war came. and they have extended this to 250 days. The 5,000 plus crew has had only 2 days on land since they left there. Once in Guam and in December, and then in Oman in July. The deployment was scheduled to end in May, but it was extended because of the ongoing war. Now, of course, the DUI hire, Pete Hegseth, has dismissed the claims of horrible and horrific conditions as fake news. He's been saying that all the way back in May. But we have seen photographs. We have family members speaking out. We know that this is not fake news, and we know that they're not doing anything about this because they continue to call it fake news. This is absolutely disturbing. How can you say you care about people in the military and you do this? 250 days without making it to land, moldy showers, no laundry. It's like being in prison, worse than prison, because at least they have laundry and some food.
All I know is the next time something goes down, just like the Kaepernick thing, y'all better not form your non-existent lips and tell us we don't care about veterans. You better not ever go there again. You better not ever go there again. Because if anybody don't care about the military, it's y'all. That's why there are still homeless veterans out here, because you never cared. You only care when it's convenient. But see, y'all, take a look at what Donald Trump and Pete had said. If you say it's fake news, then you're never going to fix the problem. And that's exactly what he's done. They've been telling Pete since April what the conditions were like on these naval ships. And since April, all the way up until now, he's still calling it fake news. They ain't gonna never get no help. This Trump administration, they're not gonna help those sailors. My heart goes out to any of you that got loved ones that are in the Middle East, because this is how they're getting treated. Now, just picture in your head 5,000 people aboard one ship, and that's what the conditions are like. But I want you to think about something, because I thought about this last night. You remember how they would show those illustrations of saying that our forefathers and foremothers were packed down on those slave ships, and talked about how bad the conditions were wherever they relieved themselves. They had to lay in it, and the women were having their cycles. And you remember how disgusting they were talking about how things were, or if somebody died next to you, you had to literally smell that stench of their bodies. Remember that? Look at the irony of what's happening to them now. I'm just saying, y'all, look at the irony of what's happening to them. They put us in bad conditions on land and at sea. They put us in bad conditions. Now look at them sitting in bad conditions. Am I right? Many passed away, y'all. And many of them jumped overboard because they did not want to go into slavery. And they jumped overboard. So, yeah, the conditions were bad, right? So they always made conditions bad for us, or tried their best to sabotage us into bad conditions, right? Now look at what's happening. And on top of that, the families are literally helpless. They have sent care packages of food to help, and they won't even deliver the care packages. They said they have not delivered anything, and they won't. They said because of the excuse they gave was because of the conflict that's going on. It would be too dangerous going in there and giving people their care packages that went over there from their families. So they are not even getting the care packages where the family literally sent them food. But they're sitting in poor conditions now, right? I'm just saying, well, let's get back to this.
Not no cup of rice and tortillas. You can't make this up, even if you tried. I can't even imagine what MAGA would be saying if this had happened under President Biden. Y'all put your thoughts in your comments. My love is going out to these troops. Y'all, please stay. This is Double D.
This one made me sick, and it will you too. So, sailors on a U.S. aircraft carrier are literally trying to jump off the ship, and the Navy has been denying that there's any problems at all since April. This is the USS Abraham Lincoln. This is a nuclear supercarrier out of San Diego, and it is now on the longest deployment for a modern carrier in history. A normal Navy carrier deployment runs about 6 to 7 months, and normally you would get a port call for a couple of days, roughly once a month, to decompress. The Lincoln left port last November. Trump and Netanyahu declared war on Iran, so the Navy directed it to the Middle East. And in over 8 months, it has touched land exactly twice. Once in Guam, where most sailors weren't even allowed off the ship, and once in Oman, where they were restricted to a secured compound. That is it. Over 250 days, breaking the modern record for consecutive days at sea without a real port call. That distinction matters because people are losing their minds. And we also know that they are not being properly cared for. In April, when families first started talking about food shortages and bad conditions, the Navy's official response in writing on X was that the reports were false, that the ship had sufficient food. By August, now, Military Times and Stars and Stripes had multiple sailors and family members on record describing hellish conditions. One wife says she got a call that her husband tried to jump overboard. He's now on medical hold, and she hasn't heard from the Navy since. Another sailor physically stopped a shipmate from jumping. Stars and Stripes reported a parent saying their son told them that he and his shipmates, quote, constantly think about jumping off the ship just for relief. That is awful. Now, over 200 family members just showed up to a meeting with the acting Secretary of the Navy to demand answers. The Navy Admiral finally admitted on the record that the deployment is affecting sailors' health. So the Navy's plan now is to send the USS Theodore Roosevelt to relieve the Lincoln, but they won't say when. And this is just unacceptable treatment by the military. Since April, they've been denying anything was happening. And now in August, here we are, sailors are trying to jump off a moving aircraft carrier. And nobody senior enough to fix it acted until families literally went to the press. This is what happens when the chain of command is too busy pushing testosterone shots to actually care for its service members. And when leadership is too dishonest to admit when it's screwing up and rejects competency over zealotry. If this makes you as angry as it makes me, call your representatives today. Ask them two things. First, to relieve the Lincoln's crew now. No more extensions. And second, demand accountability for how Secretary Hegseth has handled this. Because it's not enough to just say thank you for your service. After all, gratitude is more than just lip service. It's an action. It's also care. And right now, our service members are getting anything but.
Some very troubling news in from the Military Times about the conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, which has now been deployed to the Middle East for nearly 9 months. Families of the sailors aboard the aircraft carrier say that multiple sailors have tried to jump overboard. The crew is struggling with exhaustion, deteriorating mental health, and an extended deployment, and they have no firm return date. I want to remind you, this was originally supposed to be a 6-month deployment, and as I said before, it's now been nearly 9 months. They've logged more than 250 consecutive days at sea. One sailor's wife said that her husband is now on a medical hold after trying to jump from the carrier. Another says that her husband physically stopped a fellow sailor from going overboard. Families have also been raising concerns about reported food shortages, water contamination, lack of supplies, and dangerous conditions on deck. We've been reporting on these horrific conditions for months. If you listen to the Midas Touch podcast, you know the Trump regime and Pete Hegseth have repeatedly pushed back on these accounts. They've been claiming the families are lying. The Navy has previously called reports of these food shortages false, fake news, but now families are publicly sounding the alarm about something even more serious, and that's that these sailors are reaching a breaking point. The USS Theodore Roosevelt is reportedly being prepared to relieve the Lincoln, but officials have still not given families a date for when that's going to happen. We're going to keep following this horrifying story for more. Our troops deserve so much better. Spread the word, follow along, and listen to the Midas Touch podcast for updates.
Yesterday, we talked about an update on the USS Abraham Lincoln. Today, we're going to talk about the receipts that are being pulled from multiple U.S. military outlets. And according to Navy Times and Stars and Stripes, multiple sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln have attempted to jump overboard during this deployment. One sailor's wife told Navy Times her husband tried to jump overboard and is now on medical hold. Another wife said that her husband literally pulled a shipmate back to stop them from jumping. Stars and Stripes reported an additional incident where watchstanders stopped crew member from jumping, and the crew was notified over the ship's 1MC. These are not anonymous claims on the internet. These are interviews with families on board the USS Abraham Lincoln and being published by Navy Times and Stars and Stripes, the same outlet that covers the fleet every single day. We all know the ship left in November of 25. They've been on a record-breaking stretch when it comes to this carrier. And carriers, we talked about normal pull-in cycles, 30 to 45 days. And look, before you say, well, what do you have? Well, retired chief of 20 years in the Navy, and I did 3 deployments aboard a carrier and 1 not. But that's beside the point. So that gives me some volume to speak on this. But being stuck on a floated city, do you understand what that's like? There is no space. There's no getaway. There's no nothing. Your only thing that you claim is yours is your rack. That's it. And if you're like anybody else, like me, who had a coffin rack and a middle one, that whole life plus a fucking stand-up is it. This is different. It's a different kind of grind. There is no comparison. There's no need to compare. The reason why we bring this up is the same reasons why lawmakers are demanding answers from the Navy right now. The Navy says that they haven't identified any type of suicidal ideations aboard this ship. And they said that the sailors have mental health resources. Are you catching on right now on why that these are the facts, these are the receipts, and on board what is taking place is real. The length of this deployment is real. These sailors need to come home.
6 American sailors attempted suicide on the USS Abraham Lincoln by jumping overboard. That's how bad conditions have become, and that's how awful the management of the U.S. Navy and other military assets has been by Pete Hegseth during the Iran War, which is a total disaster. Now, as someone who is a combat veteran and has experience in this, I can tell you that if you have no defined mission, you have no actual end date, and you have no idea when you'll ever see your family again, on top of the fact they're serving this kind of disgusting, nasty food, trust me, that is really, really bad for morale. And when you have this situation, it just goes to show, on top of everything else, whether it's the Pentagon running out of money, whether it's pissing away Patriot missiles, whether it's, depleting our entire inventory of ballistic missiles, on and on and on, it is in a crisis mode in our military, which is a huge, huge risk to the national security of the United States, but also our allies and partners. Somebody's going to try us. Somebody's going to do something. Unbelievable. I feel bad for the families. And this comes on the heels of them, being on a conference call recently, thousands of them, with the Secretary of the Navy and screaming at him about what's going on. And all we see, I guarantee you, as we have again and again and again, are lies, deception, and, misleading from Sean Parnell at the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, all of them. Just watch.
On a record-breaking deployment, as everybody knows. But there are no reports that on the Lincoln, there have been multiple attempts by sailors to jump overboard as poor conditions and mental stresses, a lack of food, a lack of clean clothing, a lack of materials they need. It reaches a breaking point. I find this incredibly infuriating, heartbreaking. I mean, these service members have been at sea for nearly 9 months at this point. What's your reaction to the conditions they're facing?
Yeah, these reports are deeply disturbing. And, I want to express on behalf of everybody in Georgia our deep gratitude and appreciation for the sailors and the naval aviators and the Marines who are deployed and who are putting their lives on the line in service to the United States. I think we have to step back and recognize that this entire war is based on lies. They told us last year that the Iranian nuclear threat was obliterated. Then they told us earlier this year that there was an imminent nuclear threat. Both times lies. On day 4 of this war, President Trump declared victory. Months ago, Secretary Hegseth said that all of our objectives had been achieved. The war continues. Iran still has its uranium. Hormuz remains closed. This is a complete fiasco. It is a catastrophic failure by the commander-in-chief personally and his entire national security team.
Right now, we are facing a very dire situation as U.S. service members are seemingly jumping overboard to avoid serving in the United States military. Desperate sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln have tried to jump overboard during an extended deployment in their Middle East, according to their families. The aircraft carrier, which is crewed by about 5,000 sailors and Marines, has been deployed since November 21st, but more lately has been supporting U.S. military operations in the war with Iran. The deployment, has no end date right now. It was expected to end in May, but it's been extended time and time again. One woman, Annabelle Loma, the wife of a sailor serving on the Abraham Lincoln, told a publication, the Military Times, that her husband is now in a military hold, medical hold, after trying to jump from the carrier. Maria Rodriguez, another wife of a sailor, says that the husband prevented another man from jumping overboard. She told the Military Times her husband held the shipmate's arms and hauled them onto the deck, with the 3 other sailors eventually running to help. Concerns were raised by family members during a town hall meeting last week with Acting Secretary of the Navy Hung Cao. One wife told Navy officials that her husband sent her a message saying that he hopes, quote, he doesn't wake up tomorrow. The outlet said it spoke to multiple active duty sailors and their family members who described exhaustion and low morale aboard. Secretary Cao told attendees at this town hall that the USS Theodore Roosevelt is prepared to relieve the Abraham Lincoln, but wouldn't say when. I cannot tell you how proud we are of them, according to Vice Admiral Joseph Cahill. They have executed with a level of precision and professionalism that just goes to the quality of our people that have chosen to put the cloth of our nation on our shoulder and answered this call. We hear you loud and clear the impact this has on families. It has a significant impact on families. And in real time right now, our service members are literally trying to take their own lives. And we learned that it's even worse. According to a new Pentagon report submitted to the U.S. Congress and published by U.S. media, the death toll and injuries against civilians in 2025 were just 3. This year, the number of civilian deaths has soared to hundreds. The United States military is actively killing more civilians now than we did last year and we did ever before. Back to where things stand right now with the military, because at the top of the military command is the Secretary of Defense, and above him is the Commander-in-Chief. We know this Commander-in-Chief doesn't really care about how our troops are feeling abroad, because this is what he's putting out today, saying, quote, the USA has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Our naval blockade is being called by everyone a wall of steel, and there's nothing Iran can do about it. They have no navy, they have no air force, their remaining soldiers are unpaid. The IRGC is decimated and fleeing, and their leadership is uncertain at best. They have no money, their country is shot, all they have is fake news and 300% inflation, getting worse. Iran is all talk and no action, the bully of the Middle East no longer. Praise be to Allah. That's what the president is saying. And the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is facing approval ratings that, it's time to get out of the job right now.
Not like where it is going. How do they feel about the person in the president's cabinet, perhaps most responsible for the war? With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. I'm talking about the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. How do people think he's doing?
You know, when it comes to the Trump administration officials, it's not exactly like we're dealing with the 1927 Yankees, according to the American people. But, you know, you just look at Pete Hegseth, and he manages to be the lowest of the low. That's what we're talking about. Take a look here. Trump administration officials' net job approval rating. Look, they're all underwater here. You got four guys across your screen. You got Marco Rubio, who's at -8. You got RFK Jr., -9. You got J.D. Vance, the vice president, -17. But who takes the cake here? Look at this. Pete Hegseth, as I said, the lowest of the low, 22 points underwater. And this has been something that's been going on throughout the entire administration. He has been underwater in every single poll that I could find. That is his job disapproval rating being above his job approval rating, and Iran has not happened.
The comparison to Rubio here is really apt because they're both seen as involved with the war in Iran,
Correct.
but Rubio's -8, Hegseth -22.
Yeah, Rubio is the one who, relatively speaking, has come out smelling like roses, especially as he looks ahead to 2028, potentially in J.D. Vance.
All right, so talk about Pete Hegseth in comparison to other past secretaries of defense who may have had, shall we say, popularity issues.
Yeah, the one that comes to my mind in the middle of a war is Donald Rumsfeld back in 2006, right? Heading into a midterm election where it doesn't look like your party is going to do particularly well. Net popularity rating of defense secretaries at this point in midterm. Look at this. Pete Hegseth, again, 22 points underwater. This is historically low because Donald Rumsfeld, who wasn't exactly smelling the roses, he was 7 points underwater. Again, a net popularity rating in the negative underwater, but still 15 points better than Pete Hegseth. And why is this comparison in my mind so much? Is because, remember, Don Rumsfeld was essentially forced to resign after those midterm elections, after Republicans got crushed. And I think there's some question if the midterms go the way that a lot of folks think they might go, will Donald Trump's tune on this gentleman right here perhaps change a little bit? Well, we'll have to wait and see.
He still has his job for now, the Secretary of Defense. How does he compare in terms of popularity to cabinet secretaries who no longer have their job?
Yeah, okay, Johnny B. had exactly right. You know, as I said, Donald Trump has been defending Pete Hegseth, but I have to ask the question, for how long? Because he's defended a lot of other secretaries in his cabinet, and then they went adios amigos, goodbye, see you later. Net approval rating of Pete Hegseth now, 22 points underwater. Well, Pam Bondi was only 20 points underwater before she got sent packing by Donald Trump. And Kristi Noem was 16 points underwater before she got packing by Donald Trump. And now we got Pete Hegseth, who is more unpopular than either of these two women on the left side of your screen. So again, I have to ask the question is, how long is Donald Trump going to...
That's because these people don't know what the hell they're doing. Donald Trump, he talk all that DEI and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, he got the most inexperienced cabinet of all times. Pete Hegseth, just think about it, was a Fox News contributor. He went from that to being the head of Department of Defense. Come on. And he was low ranking in the military. He didn't even have any high rank. He was low. He was down low on the totem pole. And you took him and made him. That's why I'm like, Donald Trump has no business talking about no damn merit. And these are the kind of people he picked for his cabinet. None of them got a lick of experience. And they sound like it too. And yeah, inexperienced, uneducated. And when they get before the cameras, they sound like idiots. They sound stupid. But see, this is what he picked for his cabinet, but he wants us to believe everything should be done on merit. You didn't even pick your cabinet on merit. Okay, you didn't even pick your administration on merit. And I heard Caroline Levitt, her wicked ass is leaving. So anyway, y'all, this is a disgrace. My prayers to anybody that got their loved ones over there, but I don't see this getting better anytime soon. And what's going to happen, y'all? All of those sailors, because it's a combination of sailors and soldiers on the ship because the military bases have been bombed. So they got soldiers and sailors on there. Y'all, once they finally reach land, them folks ain't going to come back. You watch. It's going to be a lot of people going AWOL. a lot of people defecting and running for the hills and never looking back. I bet you 5,000 that's on them ships, you ain't gonna see that amount coming back when they have to come back. They gonna leave. They're gonna leave, y'all. There's no way they're living through all this stuff on that ship and they reach land and finally can possibly get things done, and they're not gonna go back. Oh yeah. So we shall see. I will definitely keep my eye on this story, but I feel really bad for these young people. Antithesis, thank you for the super chat. Out you supporting. As a military vet, this treatment of our people in uniform is beyond shameful. The Secretary of War and his ilk should be fired. Yeah, but you know what? Donald Trump likes him. Anybody that's a failure, Donald Trump likes them. So he may, if he does leave, he may be around a lot longer. He doesn't need to be around at all. He should never have been picked for this job. This job should have went to a general, somebody with a lot of military experience, not somebody that came off of Fox News. Donald Trump picked him because I went back and looked. You know what? Donald Trump liked the way he looked. Oh, so that's the merit that you hired someone on? Please. Brother Robert, thank you so much for the 200 joules. Sunshine, thank you so much for your support. Carlette, good to see you. As a Gulf War veteran of the USAF, so you were in the Air Force, has helicopters that can fly supplies to the ships. Satan sits in the White House, the dumb draft dodger. Yes. You know, I don't accept their reason for not getting food and supplies to these sailors and soldiers. I don't accept their reasoning. I really don't. You're saying it's too dangerous to send things in there. It's too dangerous not to send anything to these military personnel that are out there, and you expect them to fight. You can't afford not to supply them and not to feed them. So I hear what they're saying, but there's got to be a way to get supplies out there. I don't care what Donald Trump say, not trying at all. That should not even be an option. But thank you for your support from my channel. Antithesis, white tea, destroy everything they touch. You ain't never lie. Thank you for your support from my channel. And J Smooth, aka J Rowe, thank you for the 200 joules. Sunshine, thank you so much for your support for my channel. Thank everybody that donated today. I deeply appreciate it. Yeah, well, Donald Trump is stupid. He just likes being around other stupid people. That's all. That's usually the case, though. Stupid people always like other stupid people around. See, in his other administration, he had people with experience, but I think he didn't like the way he got challenged on things. So he knows these little airheads that he got up in there, they're not going to challenge him at all. They're not going to ever challenge him. Yeah. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. I am still working on a few other stories, so be on the lookout for my upcoming lives. And I thank you for your support. Don't forget to pick up your hair products, ladies and gentlemen. And I got a goat milk shampoo and leave-in conditioner that will be out real soon. So y'all have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and I will see you soon. Shalom, family.